thanks for making the extra effort coming over from Erie, Pennsylvania. Now, most people don't know, because you're involved in the insurance business, that you're a lawyer. And
Indeed.
what talk a little bit about your mom and dad, in the sense that did they encourage you to be part of that law? Was that their background?
It's interesting you should ask. So my father was a lawyer in Cleveland and in private practice, and then became general counsel of a company in Cleveland called the Weatherhead Company.
Okay.
And my mother was a lifetime kindergarten teacher.
Mm-hmm.
And so I always had it, I don't know, I guess I always had it in my DNA to go in the law direction. And a year after getting out of law school, I became an in-house counsel for Zurn Industries in Erie. And after a handful of years in that role, moved to the business side, which kind of suited me better and took me in a lot of different directions.
Including ultimately to the Erie Insurance, not Tom Hagen Erie Insurance, but...
Yeah, after my corporate career, the last 15 years of my working years, I was with a specialty insurance brokerage firm called Insurance Management Company that...
Erie Insurance Management.
Their niche was corporate clients, large nonprofits, not personal lines insurance. So it was a good fit with my business background. It was a good fit with my, my legal background. And, I'm sure you know this, that so many lawyers take a different path at some point in time. Mm-hmm. Early in their career, later in their career. And I always felt like the law gave me an organized mind. Maybe that was the way I looked at it.
So talk about your academics. You were born in Cleveland.
Born in Cleveland.
And then high school, Cleveland?
High school, Cleveland, Shaker Heights High School.
Graduated what year?
1970.
And then?
Same high school as Phil Donahue.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
And then from there?
And then, well, at the time, I was a competitive figure skater. Mm-hmm. So my first year of college, I went to Case Western Reserve as an undergraduate. Then I moved to Delaware, where myself and my ice dancing partner trained under the Olympic ice dancing coach, the same coach that Susie Connor, that we've spoken about, that you know well.
Who was that?
Pardon?
Who was that?
Susie Connor.
No, Susie Connor.
Oh,
and then
Ron Luddington, who was the
Luddington,
premier
okay.
ice dancing coach at the time. So I took classes at the University of Delaware and skated. We had the rink available all night long, so we skated at night, went to school. That was kind of my life. And then when I quit competitive skating, I moved to Pittsburgh, where we had an opportunity to teach skating, and I was able to work my way through the end of my undergraduate and then law school teaching skating. And then graduated from University of Pittsburgh Law School. And even after I got out of college, I continued to teach skating and skate a little bit. And then I ended up in Erie, Pennsylvania, because I was teaching skating to the dean of the Duquesne Law School, not this law school I had gone to. And I had a nice relationship with him, and he came across an opportunity to go up to Erie and work for Zurn.
I'll be darned.
So you never know what path somebody's going to, open up for you or is going to be revealed through something like that.
Well, during that skating time period, you met some interesting people. Why don't you drop some names?
Well, I'm one of the adults I had in my adult skating classes was the attorney John Deans ex-wife
I'll be darned.
who came back. I think she was from Pittsburgh. And very nice, very pretty woman. And then I had Preston Pearson, who
Sure.
played for the Steelers, and then I think he went to the Dallas Cowboys.
Sure.
And so there were, at the time, so those were maybe two of the luminaries that I remembered. But it was funny. I got into figure skating because my mother tried to sign me up for hockey at the Cleveland Skating Club. And the hockey program that we had just joined at the suggestion of somebody in Cleveland. And the hockey program was full. So she put me in the regular conventional figure skating program. And I kind of took to it. And for every boy in the program, there was probably 5 or 10 nice girls. And that seemed to be an attractive sport at the time. And they started teaming me up with girls, and I went off ice dancing and ended up marrying my last partner I ended up marrying.
Was she a dancer too?
Well, not my current wife,
Okay.
Kathy,
Kathy,
but
okay.
my first wife I was married to for 10 years, and she was my skating partner.
I'll be darned.
Yeah.
And I know that along the way you got to know, and as did, because through my daughter, ice skating, the Erie skater who did well and professionally, and her name was again?
Karen Kadavy.
Karen Kadavy, yeah.
She used to drive down, her parents would bring her down to Pittsburgh when she was 7 years old and her sister was 10 years old, Carla. And I would teach both of the girls ice dancing while somebody else would teach them jumping and spinning.
Right, right.
And so I literally just had dinner with my wife, with Karen, last week, who I've known now for 50 years.
Yeah.
And she went on, not in ice dancing, but in jumping and spinning and free skating, to the Olympics.
That's right.
So that was certainly I take no credit for that, but
Oh, go ahead.
as a student, that was definitely a student that progressed to the highest level.
Yeah, and just to brag a little bit, my daughter did ice dancing too, and with her male compatriot was from Erie, and skated at the same program to Karen. She came back as a celebrity, and it was the Karen Kadavy show, but
Sure.
to sort of fill out the card, Amy was there with Rob, and I can't remember the doctor's son's name, but it'll come to me. So it was us. That's a small world department. But you also did a Lake Placid video.
I did. I had competed in many competitions up in Lake Placid. And I ended up, so I was really into the Adirondacks at that time. And I had a vision as I was in my legal career at the time. It always interested me, the idea of being somewhat of a raconteur, like a Charles Kuralt. And I thought, well, if I have any ability to pursue that, I would need to show somebody that I have maybe a threshold level of capability. So I decided on the theme of the old Lake Placid Club, which was a turn-of-the-century club up there, that had been very pivotal in the development of winter sports in this country. And of course was the site of the second Winter Olympics in 1932, and the first time the Olympics had been held here in the United States. And many of the facilities for the Olympics were held on the grounds of the Lake Placid Club. So that was a subject that interested me. And I was between jobs at the time. So I took the family up to Lake Placid, and we lived for a month while I kind of researched this subject and hired professionals to help me do this 10-minute vignette. And it was one of those experiences in life where you spend thousands to make hundreds. But I did sell the little vignette as a filler piece to a number of public TV stations, particularly up in the New York region. and up in Canada. And so I enjoyed it a lot, and you were the one that posted it on YouTube.
Yep. Are you getting all the royalties?
Oh yeah, that's what enabled me to afford to come over here today.
Yes, if you should watch it. It's really well done, very well done. So through all of that, the Cole Stearns Robert Jackson Center story, I'm going to give a little prelude to it, is two things were going on. One, our paths crossed at a Chamber of Commerce meeting, and you were, I learned you could sell snow to an Eskimo, but here you were in an Erie Insurance Management Company, and you were reaching out to Chautauqua County.
Yep.
And you were engaged, it was a networking thing, and next thing you know, we had dinner. And
that's right.
We kind of chatted about you, and you were interested about us, and some of the clients we had, which you, by the way, for the camera, Cole's very good, but not only good at networking, but also follow up, follow through, because you in turn got names, contacts, and those people in turn signed up with Erie Insurance Management, and we're very happy. That's an amazing story in and of itself, because that doesn't always happen. You did it, and that was very impressive to me. On a parallel track, because you were from Erie and knew people in Erie, on our board at the time was Tom Hagen. And Tom was again, he was with us sort of from the beginning. It was on our board, and it came a time because of his wife's some health issues, couldn't continue to be on the board, and he said he was going to resign, and I asked him if he had any ideas, and he said, yeah, I do, Cole Stearns from Erie. So I don't know if I ever told you the story, but you came recommended for the board by Tom Hagen.
Wow.
That's a pretty big honor.
Yeah. Well,
And I don't know what you did to impress him, but you did it. And so hence that was an easy thing. So I know you through that kind of relationship,
sure.
which morphed into other stuff. But that was, at least from my perspective, what happened. And so maybe I should hear from you kind of what your perspective is to kind of whether what I just said has some degree of veracity and kind of how you connect.
So I remember the night I met you at a Chamber of Commerce mixer, I called them,
Yeah.
at the hotel,
Right.
downtown Jamestown. And you and I were maybe dueling over an hors d'oeuvre or whatnot. And I remember you asked me where I was from, and in a very short matter, I happened to mention ice skating, which had a connection with you and your daughter. And the next thing I know, you and I had dinner that same night.
Right.
And of course, forthwith, I heard about the Jackson Center. And it wasn't long after that I brought my teenage sons over to the Jackson Center to hear, I did it on successive occasions, to hear several Holocaust survivors speak.
Okay.
And that was kind of the beginning of me, that was the first programming I came to was that. And it really was a family affair. And then soon thereafter, my wife and I stayed involved and would be coming to the Jackson Society get-togethers and whatnot. So that was obviously before Tom Hagen, before the Tom Hagen interlude. But I remember that very well because as a parent of two teenage boys, it was interesting for me to see them process that kind of interaction. And I remember sitting right here when you had Phil Donahue on the stage here, and went up and met Phil and gave him the Shaker High School, secret handshake, of course. But those were the early days. And even as a lawyer, even though I was familiar with Justice Jackson, I hadn't taken the deep dive that the Jackson Center kind of brought to me, and you brought to me in talking about the expansiveness of his life and the programming. Of course, I was, involved with here at the center.
And I remember, Cole, yes, 'cause I remember, that's just flashing back for me too, the number of times you invited me to either attend or be a speaker at, whether it was a Rotary type meal or a business council event, maybe some chamber event.
Sure.
And then you coupled with Tom Hagen. We had a couple of events where John Barrett came down to Erie.
Yep.
So there was the whole Erie sort of vibe going on.
Yeah. Well, it always struck me as unfortunate that the Jackson Center was so close to Erie and so unknown. Mm-hmm. And so I would bring, my wife and I would bring good friends of ours over here to programming or to the society dinner. And then, I remember Tom Tupitza.
Tom Tupitza, yes.
Who I think you had already met, but I was good friends with. And I urged him to become more involved. And of course, that lunch that my wife and I and Tom and Susie Hagen hosted in Erie was a wonderful affair.
That was over the top.
Wonderful.
That
It was
was
John Barrett.
John Barrett, yeah.
John Barrett just knocked it out of the park as he does.
Right.
And there were so many people later that became, supporters of the center through that event, which was great.
And from Tom Tupitza, that's right, and also Dr. Garvey became worked out through the Jefferson Educational Society, and between you and Tom, and I know Tom was instrumental. I think it's one of the founders of the Jefferson.
Sure.
Next thing you know, Dr. Garvey's here. Next thing you know, Dr. Garvey is kind of learning all about us. Next thing you know, they sort of launched a little bit on what we were doing. And that was another Erie connect. And all through this Cole Stearns, Tom Hagen, and subsequently the triumvirate of that was Sean McLaughlin.
Sure.
And so that Erie connection. And for that, I'll always be grateful, because that launched us in a whole lot of different areas where we did programming at the Jefferson. We did programming through, and Tom brought us down on a couple of other occasions. So it was all really because of the three of you, Hagen, Stearns, and McLaughlin.
Well, I was glad to be in such good company, and I enjoyed, when you would come over to Erie. I remember going with you to some of the Temple Ashned,
Yep.
I think it is, down on 10th Street, and other affairs where you would bring the message so effectively as to,
That's
the Jackson Center, and that was all fabulous.
The Jewish Center, and that Walter Harf, I should drop
Yep.
Walter's name in here. He invited me down together with Rabbi somebody, I can't forget the name, to be their special event at the Jackson Center. I was treated royally. And yeah, all of that, and I did interview a variety of people from Erie who were Holocaust survivors who came here, or I did there.
Yep.
And it turned out that one of the attorneys in Erie, I never met him, but I did meet his wife, was a Nuremberg prosecutor.
I remember that.
Yeah. Bowler, John Bowler, B-O-W-L-E-R.
And I remember I knew his daughter.
Yes, that's right. And through that, I sat down with the wife who actually was at Nuremberg. She was from France, Germany, and met Bowler there. I don't know why I'm forgetting the first name. I think it's John. And they met at Nuremberg, and then they came to Erie. And most attorneys in Erie, to this day, have no idea that he was a Nuremberg prosecutor.
Yeah. That was phenomenal to me that here he was, a longtime Erie lawyer with that kind of a background, and it was totally under the radar.
Totally. I remember Sean and I did a couple of Erie County Bar Associate Judges, excuse me, Judge McLaughlin and I did Erie County Bar CLEs, and the place is loaded with lawyers. You know, and I said, anybody remember John Bowler? And one or two, and he's a Nuremberg prosecutor. No idea. Because he was an estates lawyer. He was a state's trust and estates lawyer. Anyways, I don't know. This is not my interview, but it's the Erie Connect, which you created, because you were a salesman. I mean, to your credit, Cole, you drank the Kool-Aid, and I always appreciated that, because more than, I mean, Tom certainly incredibly connected, and Judge McLaughlin incredibly connected in their world, but it required a mix master, kind of the guy who could sell snow to an Eskimo, and that was Cole Stearns.
Well, you're gracious to a fault in saying that, but that it probably is apt to say that I drank the Kool-Aid, because to me the message of the Jackson Center was compelling and multidimensional, and I just felt totally natural and at ease being an upfront guy, bringing in people whose relationships I valued to such a great thing.
Well, and likewise, when you bought a place at Chautauqua, and in relationships with the Greenbergs and the Bellows and the Connors, all of that, you ingratiated yourself to a lot of people who in turn all became part of the extended Chautauqua experience.
Sure.
With the Jackson Center.
Sure.
Do you recall any sort of, because you were on the board for, quite a long time, do you remember any sort of programming or kind of incidents which you'd say, this is one, Gregor, I really remember? Anything strike you?
Well, the one that I, to this day, when I speak about the Jackson Center, the one I remember so vividly was, if I'm remembering this right, I think it was Bill Broder.
Yeah.
He came to the Jackson Society dinner, and he spoke. And if I'm remembering right, he was a financial person who basically devoted his life to trying to protect Sergei Magnitsky, who was the Russian lawyer that uncovered the fraud in many areas in Russia, and Bill Broder's firm was impacted by that, and that was how they became connected. And Magnitsky was imprisoned and tortured to death in Russia. And Bill Broder came and he spoke about his efforts, and it was transformational. I mean, truly transformational. I remember, you can correct me on this, I think Magnitsky's wife was here.
And at least one, if not two children were here. And I took Bill, because he wasn't here, I brought him down here to take a tour of the Jackson Center, he and I alone. And that was cool.
Oh, I bet.
Yeah, that was cool.
But that was a riveting message from Mr. Broder. And that was probably the highlight of really, because of the compelling nature of that message. But there's been others as well, but I think that when people would ask me, well, why are you involved in the Jackson Center? Experiences like that, bringing my children over to hear Holocaust survivors, was transformational to me, truly transformational.
One of your many assets is the fact that you're an idea guy. You are an idea guy. And here we are, we're on the cusp of entering our 25th anniversary, hard to believe. But as you looked at, and you lived at a lot of this, and lived the programming and saw as it go along, are there areas that you would kind of look at a crystal ball and say, gee, Greg, I hope the Jackson Center considers this to kind of take it to the next level?
Oop. Let me repin myself here. I think that what I've communicated to David Niles and Kristen, more recently, is and I've used the term with David, the sizzle of impactful messaging that the Jackson Center brings. And getting that message out, to me, in the broadest way possible is critical in this day and age. And I think that when I got involved in the Jackson Center initially, I viewed it kind of as a local history museum, even though the message really was a very broad message. That was my hope was, and I think it's come true and needs to even be even more amplified, to have it transcend that. And I think that the programming, and I've several months ago, there was a program here where an actress played the part of a child interned in a Japanese internment camp during World War II. And I sat here with a group of high school students. And that was when I came over to meet David. And it was so well done. And to watch young people process that kind of a message, there's nothing better than that. Right. I mean, there's just nothing better than that. And it made me hearken back to when I would bring my boys over to hear the Holocaust survivors speak, to see my own children process that. And I think that in today's day and age, so many messages of the Jackson Center the ground is so fertile for more.
Sure.
And bigger and broader. So maybe that's the best way I can answer that.
Well, we're at a theater which has gone from 1920, when it converted from livery stable to a theater by the Scottish Rite Consistory. It's gone through many iterations, saved by, thank God for foundation, just to save the facility. But now, I think next year at this time, Cole, our hope is at least the venue, the forum, is going to have even more capabilities to do some of the things you would want to do. Is there kind of specific programming that you've seen in the last, because I know you watch this kind of stuff in Cleveland that kind of has the artistic and more of the arts messaging.
Well, it's interesting. It's interesting you should say that, because I remember bringing to the center, and you were involved in screening at the time, a documentary that had been done on art that had been done in Holocaust camps. Mm-hmm. And it was a very well done piece, and my thought was maybe parts of this could segue or play into a program here at the center, because it's always interested me that how creative people are under the most dire circumstances. And of course, most recently, there was programming that was done here kind of in a similar vein for the teachers of the region, an educational program that I can't remember her name, that is head of programming here at the Jackson Center, put on, where they basically amplified all the creative themes and impulses that came out of people that were, whether it was poetry, music, artwork, dance, that the seeds were planted in the most dire circumstances in Holocaust camps. So kind of hearkening back to what you asked me before,
Yeah.
that is something, being an art enthusiast, and I've often thought, I with all due humility, maybe call myself an artist at a very basic level, because I enjoy some creativity. And I say to myself, if I want to paint or I want to draw, I go out and buy the best products that I can afford, and I indulge myself. So if somebody said to me, all right, you can still be creative, but you've got to find the materials in the trash can, dig it out, and that's what you're going to use, would I still be enthusiastic about it? How compelled would I be to be creative?
Yeah.
Then I think if I just had to, as many people during the Holocaust did, find the stub of a pencil or some dirt and use that to make an image with, would I still be creative? And then what if being creative, they said to me, if you're caught doing that, you're going to be killed? Would I buy into that? And what would it take to sustain the creative impulse if you had to do it, under the covers of your bed, under the penalty of death, or maybe it was music, and you write a score of music in the dead of night under your covers at the risk of being killed? That to me was so profound, that so much creativity came at the risk of death, and speaks volumes about maybe the human spirit. And to me, that's the kind of message that would really resonate with the platform that the Jackson Center has.
As you're speaking, I'm envisioning a few plays, and I'd have to research it, but that existed, I think, at the 75th anniversary, that were done in New York City and elsewhere, ballets, which interpreted the Nuremberg trial, which interpreted some of the Holocaust. And they were out there. And gosh, I'm going to have to talk to David about that and our programming people, because you've hit a chord. That wasn't that long ago at an anniversary, and now we're on to the 80th, hard to believe, 5 years, of the Nuremberg trial. This is really insightful, Cole Stearns.
Well, let me add, I think that my wife, who worked the end of her career, she worked in the nonprofit world for a number of years, doing programs such as helping inmates that are coming out of prison get reindoctrinated into society and have a fighting chance of prevailing. And she would always use the term, and now she's very involved with the Erie Community Foundation with a group called the Erie Women's Fund. And she's very passionate about that work. And she would, sitting around the house, she would always talk about nonprofits and the drive to show outcomes. All these donors are giving money. What are the outcomes? What are the deliverables? And I remember speaking at a society dinner here.
You can watch it on YouTube. It's very well done.
And I just I remember, because my wife had drilled that into me, that's what donors want to see is outcomes.
Sure.
And I remember making that comment that to at the society dinner, that to me the outcomes here are profound transformational messages that are impactful with an organization that is so professional and presents such, it preserves the legacy, as we've always spoken of Jackson, but it gives the legacy legs and traction in our lives today, whether it's the Magnitsky issue or profound human experiences that are just wrapped around the Jackson message. And to me, as we all look for good outcomes, as we support missions that are important to us, what's better than that?
We are thrilled that you continue to be involved. I'm thrilled that this kind of messaging you gave to us at Jackson Society Dinner, and you still give to David Niles today, because he's a man with a high energy, but also doesn't have that corporate knowledge of how the Jackson Center works or could work. And that's where you bring a lot to the table, Cole. You really do.
Well, I appreciate that.
And I'm delighted you made the effort here today to come from, take time off before your well-earned vacation to make it.
Well, it's my pleasure, indeed. And it's so funny to think back on it all. The seed was you and I meeting at a business mixer here in town.
That's right.
And that's been, I've drilled into my two boys that are in their young adulthood now, the message that, when there's an opportunity to meet new people and embrace something new, do it. Because you never know what kind of a door, what kind of a new dimension to your life that's going to add. And I'm not overstating it, the Jackson Center has been a new and important and continuing dimension to my wife and myself.
Gosh, we should end on that. And say thank you, Cole. This is spectacular. Yeah.
Wonderful.
It is amazing.